Hi everyone. Yep. Give us a minute. We are trying to have some technical issues, so we are trying to sort it out. Should be okay soon. Okay. Should be okay. And thank you very much, guys. Okay, so let me just first and foremost, let me just say a thank you to everybody for taking the day to come in. So can I have a bit of a suggestions? You can choose to switch off the camera if you like, and but probably we have to mute all of you first so that when the presentation starts, there won't be any interruptions. But just take note, if your camera is on, if you are doing anything private, please switch off the camera. Yeah, this is a PG channel, so don't want to turn it into R21 and stuff like that. Okay, so first and foremost, thank you very much for everybody for coming on into this on a Tuesday. Okay, so the topic itself is talking about using consultancy as a side hustle. So first and foremost, let me just do a short introduction, and then before I jump into the slides. And in between, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask me. I may not be able to answer you all the way, probably until the end of it, and then we'll probably come one-to-one. Do take note, this is being recorded. This is being recorded. So, just to make sure that you are well-dressed and you're proper and everything. Because we did have a couple of situations where the user actually forgotten that their camera is on. And for people who work from home, I'm not quite sure whether do you wear any pants or not, but just take note of it. Okay, so first and foremost, okay, let me just quickly share the screen here. Share screen, there's PowerPoint. Okay, you probably start to see all this already. It's up. Let me just put it up. Okay, so you can probably see this. Okay, so let me just quickly just start off, and then I'll do a short introduction of what I do. And if you take note, we have about 30 plus slides here. Take note, this is not so much as that I just run through slide by slide, to explain everything to you. It's more of like to let you know, understand, to have a basic understanding of what do you need and how to be a consultant. There are many types of consultants in the world, but today what we are running about, we're actually going to run through about this particular, how to build a consultancy, hustle. Okay, let me just run through, get it up. Okay, here we go. Okay, so first and foremost, thank you for attending. So first and foremost, let me just do a short introductions. My name is Paddy Tan. I'm the managing partner of Blackstone Consulting. We are based in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and also in Taiwan. So what do? We are basically a consultancy firm. We help companies to scale into Southeast Asia. So today, for the next 60 minutes, I'll be talking about the topic, how to build a consultancy on the side hustle. Okay, I think first and foremost, when we talk about side hustle, what do we mean by side hustle? So the next 60 minutes, we will actually go down and deep dive into the details on this. So this is the event agenda. From 4 o'clock to 4:20, the advantages of consultancy side hustles, how to position yourself as an expert, getting started as a consultant, creating a compelling consultant profile, introductions to Startup Storm is actually one of the product, and promoting your consultancies on Startup Storm, and then Q&A. Okay, so I'll just jump in. Okay, a quick one. Thanks to technology and thanks to Zoom filter, I'm actually coming to 50 years old. So, and of course, from there, you can't probably see, I think you'll probably be disappointed to see me in the actual person. Okay, so I'm not young, coming to 50 years old. I've been doing a lot of business development since, year 2000, immediately after national service, and have a bit of experience here and there. My biggest gig as a consultant, it started off when I was, started off as an investor. After I did an exit in 2011, in about 2005, I developed a software, some mobile security software. Some of you who are as old as me, okay, you may probably remember Nokia, Sony Ericsson's, BlackBerry, and stuff like that. So my company, we don't call it startup then, we just call it a business. we develop mobile security software for these brands and then install into their devices, which is what you have today as Find My Phone or Find My iPhone. I started in 2005. In 2011, I exited, sold it off, make some money, and then use that money to invest in other companies. And when I invested in other companies, I give myself an opportunity to help to scale companies. You can call it skin in the game. So whether am I investors, am I a consultant, bottom line here is that I was helping quite a lot of companies to scale. Mainly in Southeast Asia. That means we have clienteles from as far as Russia, China, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, entering into Southeast Asia. So which is why today I'm taking the opportunity to share about what we do and how can you actually make some money out of it along the way. Okay, so you can take a look under LinkedIn, Paddy Tan. Just feel free to add me on the LinkedIn and then send me a note if you can, after I approve. Probably have to be 60 minutes later. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me on that. Okay, so let me just run through the next one. Okay, how to be a consultant. Okay, let me just very quickly run through. To be honest, when you go around talking to others that you're a consultant, one of the biggest problem, or rather the negative impression that a lot of people have is that consultant. What is a consultant? It's just more of someone who talk, someone who just talk a lot, but you don't do delivery, and charge you an arm and a leg, and then give you some reports, and that's it. Okay. Well, is it wrong or is it right? The thing is that it has evolved. Consultants these days are no more just talking, giving you reports. Because to be honest, if you have a ChatGPT, okay, you sign up as a premium account, literally it is like your real-time consultant. So what makes a consultant a consultant? If you are someone who can actually be replaced by something like a ChatGPT, yeah, I don't think you should consider yourself as a consultant anymore. Because if it's a question and answer, then it is not a consultant. It is basically a Q&A. So a consultant actually has to go beyond, okay, what is a consultant itself. I think if you look at on the screen here, my kind of consultant is someone who has the experience, okay, they deep dive, they actually been there, done that themselves. If they've been there, done that themselves, they have the experience, and then to them is that they can actually share with you. They means telling you, hey, you know what? If you want to go from point A to point B, you can probably take a Grab, you can probably take an Air Asia taxi, okay, you can walk, you can take a train, you can fly. So a consultant will not just tell you, you should take the fastest route there, or you should take the fastest transportation there. Why? Because he or she should actually take into considerations of what capability or what capacity or what do you really have. Because asking you to fly, let's say for example Singapore to Malaysia to KL, well, you can drive. Driving, some folks can probably drive in 2-3 hours, but maybe you can just compare this. Hey, you know what? I want to fly because I prefer comfort. I can use 2 hours to wait at the airport to do my work. Then in the plane, 25 to 45 minutes, and after that I get out, I'm still fresh. So there are many methods. So a consultant is supposed to come in to analyze your capability and your capacity. And then from it, they can actually tell you, hey, this is what you should do. This is how you should do. And give you very clear, well-defined steps. Because when that happens, okay, it actually saves your clientele a lot of resources. Whether is it time, is it opportunity, cost, or whatsoever. I think this is where a consultant should be a consultant. And not someone who can just grab from the ChatGPT, copy and paste, turn it up, and then just send it over. Because as much as a ChatGPT, is useful, it doesn't beat someone who actually has a lot of experience. Okay, for example, like Blackstone Consulting, we help companies to scale, but we don't focus on fundraising. But I myself, being investors, if someone comes to me and say, Paddy, hey, I want to raise funds, okay, then I will probably ask the typical question: what, where, when, how, where, the kind of stuff. I'll probably tell them, if you want to raise funds, it's probably not a good time to raise funds now. Why? Because we are talking about year end. Just like anyone, we all have annual leaves and everything, and a lot of people will probably be taking leaves to be away with families and all these for holidays. So if you are here trying to raise funds, talking to investors, the investors may not be actually in the right mind frame of, may not be in the right positions, or even positioning it as to talk to you at all. They may not be. So if this is the case, you may actually end up flying here, talk to them, get them excited, but after the holiday, they've probably forgotten everything. And then not to forget, if you're talking about family office, high net worth individuals, or even VCs or whatsoever, they may actually have to get together once a month, okay, to sit in together on the round table and then talk about which are the companies that we should be looking at, which are companies that we should not be looking at. So without the experience, you may not be able to understand all this. But if you sort of has a consultant or someone who can actually advise you with some experience to share with you, you may actually save a lot of resources. So this can be one of those that where consultancy actually comes in. Okay, so what's next? Okay, so this is actually quite straightforward. We talk about introductions of positioning as a consultant, getting started as a consultant, promoting your consultants on Startup Storm. I think the first and foremost, let's not get too crazy over titles, because consultants, as much as it sounds nice, okay, I think end of the day is to solve the problem. Okay, I could say that you can position yourself as a problem solver, or you can position yourself as a problem solver that can do executions, or a problem solver that is in theory. Because here's the thing, your clientele may not necessarily need you to do the execution. They may just need you to tell them what not to do. So in the case of us, okay, I mean, being investors myself, I exited a few times. Companies that are in the startup space or companies that are not in the SME, they usually think that they know what they want to do, or they think that they know what to do. Okay, and they tend to do a lot. So sometimes doing a lot of unnecessary things, but to them is important, a consultant may be able to come in and then start to filter out. Yes, this may be important, but probably not important for you to do it now. That may be important, okay, but it's more important than others, and you may want to do it now. Because why? Sometimes the result may actually impact your next and next and next phase of progress. I think this is where you as a consultant, or you want to be a consultant, you have to see yourself, what is the capability and the capacity that you have also. So now let's go into this consultant. Okay, so let's start off with a side hustle. So what is a side hustle? Side hustle simply means something that you do on the side, but not that important that take your attention away from running it as a full-time. Okay, so when you talk about the advantages of running a side hustle, of course, there will be extra income coming in, especially after work from home. It is actually getting very common for people to reach out to experts, okay, and then seek advice from them using through a Zoom. Okay, when during the pandemic, when it happens, Blackstorm, we actually embarked onto that. We can't fly, and our clientele can't meet up with us. So ended up, we actually did a lot of consultancy. We tell them, so they will give us all the informations. But what makes us a slightly different from others is that we prefer that not to do face-to-face an hour, because it's very tiring for everybody. So what we usually do is that we will just advise them, as and whenever you have problem, use a phone, which is probably in front of a phone, in front of a computer, whatever, record it. Okay, just record it as a voice note. And then after you record all of this as a voice note, send it all to us. But before you send it all to us, run it through. Because sometimes when you need help, okay, you do not want to tap onto your consultant, okay, on things that are not important. And then you ended up eating up your man hours, eating up your man days. So when you're doing a side hustle, you have to understand there will be clientele who actually come to you asking you for help for anything, everything. And when that happens, okay, sometimes as a consultant, or especially as a new consultant, you don't see it as important to charge extra. You probably think, oh, it's okay, 5-10 minutes. But the thing here is, okay, if you're ordering a plate of fried rice, you will expect someone who had cooked, who had prepared many plates of fried rice, and then they can actually do it in the 5-10 minutes time. But the preparation work, it probably takes, and the number of years of experience. So when you're trying to do a side hustle, always remember, okay, it is not about you telling them exactly in the 5-10 minutes or an hour, but it's more of the preparation. So when you're trying to have an advantage of running a consultancy as a side hustle, you have to know there is actually a lot of time spent to do your skill enhancement. You got to learn to be an entrepreneur and stuff like that. So advantage is, yes, you can actually broaden your experience and everything. You can actually talk to a lot of people, and people who needs help, they can come to you. But the charging mechanism, you have to be very careful. And this is where later on in the other slides, I'll share with you a bit more. So looking at this screen itself, you can probably see that there are actually a lot of advantages. You can expand your network. Okay, like for example, In 2005, when I started the mobile security software, and then in 2011, I sold it off. After I sold it off already, somehow, somewhere, I registered myself with a couple of companies, some consultancy firm in the US, some consultancy firm in Europe. And interestingly, now it's 2023. After so many years, 10 years plus, I still get such kind of booking. Okay, during the time, Calendarly was not open yet. Okay, so I still get booking on people wanting to come into Southeast Asia to understand about the mobile security, understand about cyber security, national security, and stuff like that, and they're willing to pay. And each sessions can range anything from your standard $100 to 5,000 US dollar per hour. So there are actually something like that where you can actually have some side incomes, and these side incomes can actually be added up quite a fair bit. Okay, so how to position yourself as an expert consultant? Okay, so I'm not going to run through one by one, but the key word here is position yourself and also an expert consultant. Okay, the word is big. None of us can claim to be an expert of everything, but some of us can claim to be an expert of something. Okay, what you are good in may be something that what others are not good in, and what others are good in may be something that you are not good in. So think about this statement. Okay, so let me give you an example. If you already have a certain track record, let's say, for example, you have been doing volunteer. Okay, volunteerism has been a big part of your life. You understand exactly what to do, how to do. When someone wants to set up, some associations, non-profit organizations, they want to look into volunteer. They want people to teach others on volunteer. Maybe CSR. Okay, so when it is a part of your life, or if it's a big part of your life, then naturally you should go into something that you're already an expert in. That means you can sit down there and then you can talk for a long time on anything, everything that you're already an expert. When that is the case, then you have to ask yourself, are you actually an expert, and will people be willing to pay? That itself, it is a big market by itself. Let me give you an example. I got a couple of friends, ladies. Okay, so what happened was that they got kids. I mean, they got friends, foreigners, who actually want to send their whole family, come over to Singapore, settle down in Singapore as an expat package and everything. So to them, is that let's say, for example, some Japanese family, they will probably spend some time trying to figure out, hey, if I want to put my kids here in Singapore, how does the education work? Okay, and a lot of people do not know that if you are foreigners, can you actually be accepted into primary school, a public primary school, or should you actually go into a private school? And guess what? There are people who are willing to pay. So instead of spending weeks and months trying to figure it out, they're actually willing to pay someone or maybe a group of companies, okay, to prepare everything from them, from the enrollment, to written exams or whatsoever there are. So how do you actually position yourself? Number one thing, I think what you need to do is that if it's something that is very easy for you, okay, but it's not easy to pick up by others, you can actually position yourself quickly as an expert on that. Okay, once you are on that, then you dive in. Because why? Almost every industry, there's always a certain ecosystem that you can leverage on. And when you can leverage on that, this is where you can actually flourish. Okay, so for example, if you are someone who actually, you are probably, let's say you're a property agent. Can property agent be an expert in consultant? Yes, of course. If your property agent is just more of like showroom, show the units and then sell the units, nothing wrong. That's an agent. But if you elevate yourself, saying that, I actually understand the schools where they are popular, where all the parents are, and where all the parents would like to get, the amenities, the facilities, and stuff like that. So you can actually become a consultant where you advise them what to do, where to buy, and how to make payments and stuff like that. And then you provide services that is going beyond an agent. That is how you actually position yourself very differently. First, most likely is that if you just, there's nothing for you to position, and then you start just like anybody else, there's a very likelihood that this side hustle will actually be a very painful one. Okay, so now there are many types of consultancy. I won't go in too deep, but maybe what you can do is that you just need to look at the company's logo. Okay, some of these companies' logo actually overlaps each other. Okay, because we always known as the Big Four. Okay, so a lot of them actually have different divisions, different departments, and they can do a lot of other stuff. And some of them actually serve government agencies only. Some of them actually serve, the top Fortune 500 companies. Some of them serve only the SME. Some of them serve only only the funded startups. So in the case of here, in these slides, we have 4 from your management consulting all the way to the HR consulting. Okay, a very typical one is your management consulting. Okay, your management consulting side, it's not just only advising, the organization of various aspects of the business and improve efficiency, strategies, and overall performance, but they themselves also be involved in handling multiple businesses in different countries. So that's why you have big corporations like McKinsey or BCG, where they are not just based in one country, but they are in multiple markets. So similarly, like your financial consulting, I think everybody will probably already know who is PwC or even EY or Deloitte and all this. So these guys are anything related to financial. Okay, can be your taxations, can be your tax optimizations. How do you handle, probably let's say you have a American colleague. So is his tax going to be affected? If you're going to bring it over here, how would it affect and all this? So there are many types of consultancy. So here's the thing, if you are going to be a freelance consultant, okay, or doing some side hustle, it's important to know where do you place yourself. Because in each and every one of them, like this one, strategy consulting, can a strategy consulting be actually part of financial consulting? Answer is yes. Okay, so that's why some of the big fours, they actually have multiple divisions to actually involve in it. So let's say, for example, if you want to be a freelancer, somehow, somewhere, try to study the space that the players are already in. Let's say, example, legal tech, okay, legal consulting. If it's in the legal consulting, you look at this Baker McKenzie, okay, all these BRG. These guys actually serve very big corporations. When they serve very big corporations, so what about the rest? How about the smaller guys? How about these funded startups? How about companies that are too small to be, to hire the big boys, but they are enough to hire you as an individual? So try to find where the niche can be, where you can be. Example, legal consulting. These days, a lot of things has already involved technology. So if you happen to be a consultant and you position yourself as, I'm in the legal tech, then naturally any of the clients who come to you can look at you as, hey, you know what? I need someone who actually understands technology, because we are a tech startup. And because we are a tech startup, it means anything that is got to do with legal, you may be able to advise us. And that is where you position yourself. Okay. So, okay, so big brands company, McKinsey, Essentials, and stuff like that. And then for Blackstone, we are considered as a boutique. So what do we mean by boutique? Boutique, okay, think of it as like we are a little sparrow, small little bird, little sparrow. Small, nimble, we have all the organs, okay? We can fly, we can swim, we can, probably not swim, okay? But we can do a lot of stuff. Okay, so these are boutique consultancy, means that we may not necessarily take projects that we are not good in, so that the turnaround time can be fast. Okay, so for Blackstone's, one of the things that a lot of our clientele work with us is that we actually do only 100 days. There is projects that we are confident we take it up, we will deliver it within 100 days. But of course, there will be some certain agreements that everybody has to agree. So this is what we call as boutique, usually smaller size, but yet nimble enough to run around. So if you are an individual, you may also want to consider doing partnerships with others. Sometimes when you do, even if it's a side hustle, even if it's a freelance, you can actually look into partnership with others. Why? Because not everybody needs only one type of services. They may need multiple services. For example, it can be someone who is actually, they want to come over here to set up a company. You probably need a corporate secretary. Okay, and then you probably need to open a bank account, and then you want to do some, money transfer. Or some of them can be related to trust. Some of them can be related to, investment. So if you as an individual, you may not be able to do all this, but this doesn't mean that you can't have partners. So if you're going to be a freelance, going to be, trying to do a side hustle as an individual, you may actually want to look into partnering everybody together. Those are in the same ecosystem, and then you go in and talk to the client itself. So that itself can give you a huge advantage. Okay, so there are also a few others. Some of you probably will already recognize, like the tech consultancies. I think IBM, almost everybody know IBM. Okay, IBM is huge. So, but that doesn't mean that IBM will take all kinds of projects. So some of these consultancy firm here, they only take certain projects, maybe of a certain size, and then they work with the governments. So now here's the thing. Do you see them as a competitors? Answer is no. You'll be surprised that a lot of these big companies, okay, there's a lot of things that they can't do themselves. Or sometimes because of, paperwork, because of administrative, restrictions, certain projects that they take, but they may take a long time to deploy. So sometimes they actually need freelance consultants to come in. If you have friends that are working in these consultancy firms, you may want to have buy them a cup of coffee, chit chat with them. You'll be surprised. There are actually quite a lot of these kind of firms, okay, big corporates, they actually hire the smaller guys, the boutique, or even some of these freelancers. So even like Blackstorm ourselves, we actually work with quite a few of these companies. Some of them are actually locals. Like for example, we know in Thailand, there are some rather sizable local consultancy firm. They need help because they want to retain the relationship with the existing client. But these particular clients want to expand their business outside of Thailand, maybe into Singapore, maybe into Indonesia. So this is the part that as a client management, they do not just want to pass it over to another company. So what they will do is that they will take it up on the project, then they will bring people like us to come in, and then we will work with them. So of course, the trust has to be there. The certain NDA and all the agreements need to be in place. So you may actually want to consider, because if you are specialized or you are very good in certain verticals, you may actually want to work with the big corporates on that. That can actually give you a very, very good platforms. Okay, getting started as a consultant. Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so let's look on the number one. Know your unique value proposition. So like earlier on in the earlier slides, I mentioned about being unique. Okay, you have to be unique. And truth to be told, consultants or everyone that's in this industry, you don't have to be smarter than everybody. Okay, you don't have to. You just need to be smarter than your client. That's all. Okay, that's all. Okay, the thing is that you do not know how smart your clientele are. So this also means that you have to keep improving. You have to keep expanding your knowledge and everything. And then eventually, you should choose whether do you want to be someone that's general enough, a generalist. That means anything, everything under the sun, you can actually take it up. Or you want to be more specialized. Okay, so if you want to be more specialized, then naturally you have to look at who are the players in the market. If there are a lot of players that are already specialized, then you're probably specialized enough in the general population. So then can you actually make a living out of it? Or you actually general enough, but specialize in a certain vertical. So you have to quickly figure it out. What will be your unique value propositions? Because if your unique value proposition is not clearly identified, then you'll probably end up taking any projects that comes in, and then you ended up outsourcing to anybody, and become a project manager. And when something happens, then you are liable. So you always have to be very careful of what is really your unique value propositions. I think professional photos, I think this one is quite clear. Okay, I think most of us could have already have a lot of experience taking Wi-Fi and selfie. So go figure it out. Okay, so there will be software like Photo Room. Even like now I mentioned to you, Zoom filter seems to be quite good. I don't think my face is actually that smooth. Because I'm using my colleague's laptop, I think she maximized the filter. So okay, so professional photos, take a good one, take a multiple one, and then I put it up. But take note, okay, depending on which market are you go to. So be a bit sensitive to the culture, be a bit sensitive to the religion also, okay? And understand that who are you trying to appeal to? Because let's say, for example, somehow, somewhere, you're trying to appeal it to folks that are in the Middle East. Then in the Middle East itself, it can be quite sensitive, to show certain parts of the body, stuff like that. So always understand where are your clientele from. Okay, engaging introductions, I think this is quite straightforward. Here's the thing. If you are someone who cannot sell, then you will just be that someone who can deliver. If you're someone who cannot sell, then you probably want to look for someone who can sell for you. And then you become the guy that is on the background. Okay, why? Because engaging introductions is not all the consultants will know how to do. Some consultants make it very easy. They can really talk, they can really sell. But some consultants, they can't really talk, they can't really do very well in the face fronting, but they at the back end, they can actually do a lot of crunchings of numbers and everything. So this is the part that you always have to understand. When you talk about engaging introductions, if you're not someone who's actually very good, you can't sell, then you probably may want to work with a partner who can actually sell and then pass it to you, and then you become the guy or become the lady that's in the back office. Okay, highlight your expertise. As I mentioned, very straightforward. This is important. This is important. I think especially during the pandemic, a lot of us who were stuck at home, we ended up taking a lot of certificates. Okay, all kinds of whether if you're someone from Singapore, you probably took some skill futures here and there. Okay, but bottom line here is that not all the certifications are useful. Okay, if you are a consultant, you are doing a side hustle and everything, and your focus is on HR, please, okay, you may want to consider if you do have some certifications that's relatable to anything, everything human resource, it may actually be a bonus. Example, some of them actually know how to do grooming for pets, for cats, for dogs. And you'll be surprised. Because why? You may actually end up some foreigners to hire you to do placement of their families in the country. And if you're someone who actually has certain certifications and you can actually amplify it, say, you know what, I actually went through some courses for pet grooming, which is a friend of mine. And I was actually surprised. I was, hey, why do you put your pet grooming certificates? Is it because families who come to me, a lot of them are from the Western side. So they tend to have big dogs, huge dogs and everything. And if you try to put them into condominium, try to put them into HDB, public housing, it may not work. So if you somehow have that kind of certificates, it can actually show that you actually understand their needs better. So this can actually be a selling point. Okay, another one that you can take a look is testimonial. I think this is important. Everyone should always be in LinkedIn. If you're in LinkedIn, you work with some partners, ask for recommendations, ask for testimonial, and then you do the same for them also. So that itself is important. And if you have, big clienteles, get them to give you quotable quotes. I think that also emphasizes a sense of confidence in whatever that you're doing too. Okay, service offered. Okay, here's the thing. Should you do more or should you do less? Okay, so here's the thing. Some folks will put themselves, offer everything, anything. Okay, it's just like you're entering into a supermarket. You sell anything, everything. Okay, but if you were to do that, then you have to weigh, do you actually have the kind of resources to do all this? Or you can be one of those that rent a small little space inside a big supermarket, but you're selling something that's specialized. Ever go to the wine section? Okay, if you go to any of the wine section in any of the supermarkets, whatever, there will always be some wines or whatever. I mean, I don't drink, okay, but some wine sections that will be locked up. These are all very specialized ones. So do you want to be the kind of consultants that is actually, as I mentioned earlier, in a huge public supermarket, but yet you're actually specialized in the wine sections and selling only that particular type of brands? So figure it out quickly. What kind of services do we want to offer? Because if you were to ask me, hey, Patty, what kind of services do I want to offer? Then I will tell you, no, I can't understand. I can't tell you. Because why? You have to understand what are you really good in. Because if it's something that is really good in, and then you can just do it easily, that should be something that you should actually look in. Okay, example. Okay, not everybody take on a triathlon, triathletes and all this. You swim, you cycle, you run. Okay, some may be good in certain sports like cycling and then swimming, but may not necessarily be running. So if you are the participant, then you have to ask yourself, if I'm good in running, then I probably want to save more energy on the running. Okay, but because I'm bad in swimming, I may want to conserve my energy on swimming so that I can balance it out. Okay, so similarly for services, you have to ask yourself, if you are good in this, then you focus on this. And it's not trying to focus on things that you're not good and then try to figure it out. Because people don't pay you to learn. People pay you to execute. Okay, contact information, call to action. I think that one is quite straightforward. Okay, next one, pricing. Okay, so this is the part that we always have a question. Says like, how much should I price myself? Okay, so here's the thing. There's actually no fixed playbook of how much you should actually price yourself. Okay, there will always be a market rate. Okay, there will always be a perceived value, and then ultimately, what's the price? This is the part that you have to strike a balance. Okay, so let me give you an example. If you go to a supermarket, okay, if you're someone that's very thirsty, you probably want to go in, grab whatever drinks that you have because you're super thirsty and money is not a concern. You grab whatever it is and then you drink, you pay for it or whatever. So that's not a big concern. But if you're someone who's actually tight on the money, you may probably walk a few rounds, look for the best option that is available to you. Okay, so why am I using this example? A very classic example. If the clients come to you and your service is dime a dozen, that means everyone who offers similar services, then your pricing may not be high. But if you're offering something that's unique, and then these particular customers come to you and you know that you are unique enough. So when that happens, it simply means you can actually charge higher because the perceived value is higher. It is as it is, very simple. Louis Vuitton, Prada, they always make you wait, make you queue up and everything. Correct? So now, why don't they make you queue up at 7-Eleven? Do you queue up at 7-Eleven? No, you don't. Because everything that you go to 7-Eleven, you can probably get it in other supermarket. You can probably get it in other convenience store. You can get it from Circle K, you can get it from Family Marts and everything. So the things that they are selling are not unique enough. They may have one or two special items, but that's it. So similarly, when it comes to the pricing, you have to ask yourself, okay, are you offering something unique? If it's offering something unique, can the perceived value actually be considered as high? If the perceived value is considered as high, then you can charge a bit higher. High enough that it covers your cost, but yet at the same time, the additional pricing, the additional price that you charge can actually allow you to have a bit more leeway to do something extra for your client. Okay, let me give you an example. So before the pandemic, way before that, I used to carry passport with me all the time. That was then. Okay, when I was probably younger with more hair. Okay, I used to carry passport with me. So I used to have clientele who would just call me and say, hey, we have a situation, we need you to be in tomorrow. So usually I would do no more than 4 hours or 5 hours flight. And I would just quickly pick my passport with me. So usually, I don't go back home to pack. I'll just go to airport, online, buy whatever available air tickets, and then just fly out. No clothing, no nothing. I mean, I'm not going to recycle my underwear and everything. No. Reach there, do the necessary meetings, go to Uniqlo or go to any place and buy. Then you can always charge your customers. Or if not, you just bear with it. Why? Because when a customer of that has a demand, has a need for that, it simply means that they are willing to pay. Okay. So when that happens, then this is where your pricing comes in. Figure it out quickly, find out what is the market rate, and then find out how about you. Can you actually offer something like that? If you are new and you're offering something that's general but not unique or not specialized enough, then price yourself a bit lower to test the market. And pick up over time until you reach a stage that you know that you're actually special enough that others are willing to pay you more. Okay, so a few things that you can actually look at. Some folks charge by hour, meaning that one day probably I spend about 3 hours with you, and then out of the 3 hours, this is my rate. End of story. Okay, or maybe a team of us come in, because honestly, for a year there are about 8,000 plus hours. But sometimes when you're talking about a team of people, it can be one day there can be a team of 10, and everybody spend about 10 hours. So if that is the case, then simply put, 10 hours multiplied by 10%, and each person is X hours, so X dollars, and therefore this is your rates. Okay, and also depends on where's the locations. Do you need to travel overseas? Do you not to travel overseas? And then especially, okay, if you are someone who actually needs to go overseas, okay, for projects or whatever, my suggestion is if you can, try to get an APEC card, APEC card, so that you actually make your clearing immigrations are much faster. And if you happen to carry a passport that require visas and stuff like that, then you may not want to have clientele that require you to carry visas, apply for visas and all this. So you actually have to work backwards, because it is, if you want to do a side hustle, you have to understand that all these are actually part and parcel of the requirement. Okay, so now there's no fixed formula here. Okay, it can be a variations. It can be a variations. Okay, so here's what you can always do. You can always price yourself in such manner that you tell yourself, okay, I will not price myself more than X number of hours. I will not price myself more than X numbers of dollars. Okay, why? Because you know that if let's say the market rate is X dollar, and this is what you're supposed to deliver, then simply means that if you were to put yourself in a higher tier, you may not actually able to deliver. Okay, so what do I mean? So for example, certain projects can actually require a bit more depth. And if you are just someone who just started and probably not even in that space, and you thought, hey, you know what? This potential client is actually willing to pay me much higher than the market rate. Then realistically speaking, is the person dumb? Okay, or are you trying to take advantage? So you may actually want to work backwards. That it is actually better to price yourself lower when you first started, and then figure it out, and then try to increase your fee by giving more. In the consultancy world, a lot of things start from word of mouth. If you do well, okay, there will always be someone to recommend you to another client. Okay, if you do badly, there will always be someone who actually will talk nonsense about you. So this is the world that we live in. So if you are someone who actually is good in what you are doing, of course, there will always be someone who's still talking about you. Okay, or maybe be your competitors, or maybe the expectations will be different, or no, stuff like that. So the question here will be, how do you price yourself? Because the pricing sets your positioning, and vice versa, your positioning sets your pricing. Okay. Okay. Quite straightforward. I won't cover everything. Let's start off with the one on the right side. Okay, one-person show. Okay, one-person show and solo act are quite different. Huh? So when you talk about one person, it means that you are probably taking everything, from getting the deals, doing the executions, giving advice, providing the consultancies, doing the reports, wrapping up, and then eventually you decided, you are actually start from a single person. And some of the actual freelancers, okay, or even those that is doing a side hustle, they can be a one-person show, but they pass the deals around. It means I'm not good in what I'm doing, but I have a potential client who comes to me. So I can't do it. So I will pass it over to my contact. So in this case, then you ask, Patty, in this case, do I get a referral fee? Do I get a commission? Do I do whatever? Okay, there's no right or wrong answer. Here's the thing. If your positioning is to be a consultant and not a referrer, then naturally you should focus on being a consultant. Because when you focus on being a consultant and not being a referrer, because the temptation can be quite high. Imagine everybody starts coming to you, say, hey, you know what? This is the person that I can talk to for referrer. Then you ended up as a referrer. And there's nothing wrong with it. But if you are going to end up as a referrer, okay, the market may actually know you as a referrer rather than as a consultant. So when that happens, the positioning may be difficult to undo it later. Okay. So another thing that you may want to look at is full-time team. Some of these are actually overlapping. Okay, so when you talk about full-time team, okay, like for example, like Blackstone, we have our members in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, and I think that's all. Okay, I think it should be about 15 of us. Okay, so when that happens, some of the work can be done on a high level. That means they can be on the back office. So these guys can be doing the business analysis, they can do the research and everything. They don't have to show face. They don't have to be in front of the customers. But whereas for some full team, what they'll do is that every time when they travel, they will probably have to travel as a whole team. Okay, so that actually charges very, very differently. So I will assume that if you're doing a side hustle, you're probably not in the space of running it as a team, but probably more as a one person, or probably more as a one individuals, or even as a solo act. Okay, but take note. Okay, it is also quite common when you're doing a side hustle, you can actually join other consultancy firm as a member. Okay, so years back, we were doing a project for a Japanese brand, a rather sizable Japanese brand in Thailand. They had about 10,000 employees. So we took the project. It was a 100 days sprint. Okay, we took the projects, and then they needed people in the medical field. And they needed someone who is in the legal field that's in the particular space. So we don't understand everything. So we actually hired someone which is actually a freelancer in that consultancy, but for the medical field. So we actually brought them on board, and it was actually a couple of them. Okay, we brought them on board. So we go in as a team. Why? It is better that you hire someone to give you the actual information with their experience and everything, and then justify it than trying to pick everything up and then try to figure it out yourself. Okay, so usually this can be something that we can actually look at. Okay, so now, why are brokers important? Okay, so getting the first sales, truth to be told, you also got to do with your personality. Okay, if you're someone that is actually very jovious, you can talk to anybody and you can always tell them, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a consultant. Okay, if you know of anybody who's interested, let's start first. Do a couple of gigs for free or whatsoever, and then you pick it up from there. But it doesn't mean that everybody is good in selling themselves. So sometimes brokers can be someone who is actually in the space, who actually knows that there are some needs in that. Right? And a very classic example, like Malaysia. Over the past few years, there have been a lot of changes in government. Okay, so every time when there's a change in government, there will always be probably certain requirements. I mean, a typical FDI will always come in, like foreign direct investment will always come in, and then it always entails a few things, maybe from the factory levels to the operations to whatever to financials. So sometimes some of these brokers actually identify the needs of the private sectors. So these are the brokers who will probably say, hey, you know what? This is the industry that's picking up. Okay, they are on the recovery mode. Let me pick all these requirements, and then I turn around and look for the consultants. So that's why a broker is important. How much to pay a broker? Okay, this is up to you to negotiate, because certain brokers who are very seasonal, they could probably already have a lot of experience, and they will tell you that this is my market rate and this is how I charge. Okay, if it's something that you're willing to pay, go for it so that you can learn from it and get the experience and everything. But if it's something that you are not willing to, then my take is walk away, and it's okay. Okay, but having a broker can actually help you to get multiple types of deals, and then you have the opportunity to decide whether do you want to take the project or not. Okay, well, I think this is very simple. In Taiwan, I think they call it Kopei, word of mouth. Okay, so interestingly for Blackstone, we somehow sold the seed many years back, in 2017, 2018. We work very closely with the Taiwan side. So from the private sector to the public sector. So we work with some of the government agencies. We work with a lot of this, and then eventually somehow, due to the pandemic, a lot of our clientele come to us and continue with us also. So it is word of mouth, even within the agencies level. Okay. Okay. You may want to consider partnership. I think this one is quite straightforward. Partnership simply means two or more persons combined together, and then you can actually deliver together. So best and foremost, I think I need to warn you is that try to get people that you can work with. Okay? You may not know, just like any marriage, okay, just like any Tinder or Grindr, you need to figure it out. So once you figure it out already, then you work on a few projects, and then from there you explore whether do you want to do as a partnership. Because when you work as a partnerships, each and every one of you may be strong in your own vertical, but yet at the same time, you're able to take up projects, and then you're probably able to take up in a bigger scale. So this can actually help you. That means you can be one of the small contributor in a bigger partnership, or you can be a bigger, fella on the taking the lead for the projects also. So that can actually help you on the first sales. Okay, so other brand-in channels. Okay, I think this is quite straightforward. These are all the necessary things. This is not saying that good to have. No, it's not. You must have. Okay, I think you need to do outbound marketing, because people Google you. Okay, people search on you, and when they search on you, then you have to ask yourself, what is the first 5 pages when you appeared? Do you even qualify for the 5 pages? Meaning that they type your name in. Is it you as an individual or you as a company? Okay, so the truth here is that if you have a very generic name, okay, if you have a very generic name, then you have to understand, if you have a very generic name and someone search for you, a generic name plus a surname, if behind is plus consultancy, or if behind is oil and gas, whatever, and if you appear on the first page, congratulations. But if your name is very generic and somehow they type your name and then they put the verticals or the industry, and then you don't even appear on the first 5 pages, you have to figure out what went wrong. Okay, should you position yourself as an individual with a name, or should you position yourself as probably a certain nickname or whatsoever? Okay, so let's say, for example, you go to Google, you type ESG. Okay, the sustainability and a whole bunch of all this governance. You type ESG, then you put the Malaysia, you put the Thailand, Taiwan, or whatever country, you put it in. Then after behind, you put the consultancy. Okay, then you'll probably see the first few are all the paid ad. Okay, then it's probably the non-paid ad. So when the listing comes in, then you have to ask yourself, where do you really stand? Okay, where do you really stand? This is where actually the positioning of comes in. And your websites, your profile, everything take into consideration also. Okay, well, the rest of them is quite straightforward. Okay, this one I think is quite, I won't go into the details because you can actually really understand yourself. Podcasts, Western countries tend to be bigger, larger, not so much in this part of the world, when there are a few channels, but most, if you're talking about, providing information and all this, then probably yes, as a podcast. Like I'm not quite sure whether you guys still remember, a long time ago, there was this Clubhouse, this service called Clubhouse. It's not a podcast, it's basically, it's sort of, people actually go in and then they pick a topic and then they start talking about it. Okay, and of course, some of them actually, come up with books. Ebooks is easy. You come with ebooks and then you write. Some of them actually use ChatGPT to write the whole book and then I start to give it away for free to take leads. Okay, and speaking engagement, I think speaking engagement is very important, especially if you do a speaking engagement like panel discussions and everything. Share your knowledge, share your insight, and preferably recorded. Because once it's recorded, it tagged to you. And once it's tagged to you, search engine optimizations can pick you up also. So that can be one of those sales channels. Bottom line here is you decide the name, which vertical are you in, which industry are you in, and how people search for you. Do a search yourself first for you. If you do a search on yourself and you find that these are not the information that you find, then it's probably your sales channel, you're going to spend a bit more time, resources to be on it already. Okay, the don'ts. I think, again, quite straightforward. Okay, so here's the thing. Let me just kick off the one on the right side. Neglect communication. This is important. Okay, it got nothing to do with Gen Z or Gen X or whatever. The thing here is that how do you actually communicate with your clientele? If the way you communicate with your clientele and he or she is comfortable with the method, stick with it and then enhance it. Okay, if both of you are far away in another country, different country, and the communication is Zoom, then stick to it, use Zoom. So that will be a #1 priority. If it's not, if it needs to be downgraded, then probably texting like a WhatsApp or whatsoever, or Slack, email comes in. Okay, the thing is that because especially if you're taking clientele in different time zone, communication may actually be the main problems when your services actually get drops. Because when you don't communicate properly, he or she may not be able to understand, what you're trying to ask, and then may not be able to give you the information. Okay, this is especially so if you're trying to take clientele, they are in, they speak in different language. Okay, so for example, some of us speak very fluent in English, some of us speak very fluent in Mandarin or Chinese. But the thing is that, let's say if you're talking to some potential clientele, when you speak to them in English, they may process it, listen in English, let's say they listen in English, they process it in Thai or process it in Cantonese. And then they think of the answer in Cantonese and then they translate it in English and then they reply you. Okay, so when that happens, okay, take note, it may not be the first language. But when that happens, sometimes miscommunication happens. Why? Because they may use simpler words to reply to you. So when they use simpler words to reply to you, it simply means that if you were to take it at the face value, it may actually create miscommunication later where you think the problem is actually not as big as you anticipated. Okay? So the rest of them can be quite straightforward. Tools and resources, I think this one is quite straightforward also. You need a company logo, you gotta have a tagline, you gotta have the business names and stuff like that. Website is important. If you're not quite sure, please don't try to do everything yourself. Please don't try to build it up yourself. Spend some money, go to Fiverr, get some freelancer, get some, kits or whatever. Just build a proper website. Okay, don't try to do your Joe Cities, those type, or Yahoo type. Okay, you need to spend a bit of money and it's not expensive. So common challenges. Okay, so now, as an individual to try to do freelance or try to do as a side hustle, these are always the biggest problem. Okay, branding is one, financial is one, strategic focus is one. Okay, usually for a consultant, the biggest problem is always start out with what do you want to specialize in, or what do you want to be generalized in. If you're not quite sure, you keep flip-flopping, okay, it may actually create problem in your branding and it will hit your financial. So be very specific of what you are good in. Nobody pays you to learn. People pays you to execute. So if you're expecting someone to pay you to learn and figure it out, then I tell you, don't go in. Because if you go in, you are going to ruin yourself. Okay, so my take here is that figure quickly exactly what you want to do. Spend that time. 80-20 rules. It's better to go into something that you're strong in. It's better to go into something that you're very good in. And then from there, you dive in. Okay. So here's the thing. Promoting, okay, so what is a startup storm? You can probably read from here. So basically, we are a community, to build entrepreneur spirits and stuff like that. And most importantly is that for startup storms, we do a bit different. First, it's a free platform, but if you want for certain premium content, you can always pay for it. It's not expensive. We do have a clientele that actually come as far as from the Middle East. Okay, they want to learn about how to do startups. They want to learn about what is the ecosystems in Southeast Asia. This is actually a funneling for Blackstorm, meaning that we do three things. Startup Storm is one of those where people come in. Okay, they want to learn about things in general. And then the second thing is this, they want to learn about experts. They want to talk to experts, a couple of $100 US, on talk to the experts. And then the experts can tell them and then solve some of their problems. Okay, then the other one is, there are also some folks who say, hey, you know what? I want to learn. Okay, then this is where we go into a 50 days program, we go to the 100 days program, they pay us thousands of dollars. We run through workshops, we run through activities and all that. But take a look at what is the Startup Storm, startupstorm.asia. Go in and take a look. But what we want to share with you today is, for some of you folks who are keen to be an expert, you can actually sign up and join. Okay, it doesn't mean that the moment you sign up, you definitely automatically become an expert, and you will not be. Okay, this is where we'll need to qualify you. Okay, why? Because if you look at the diagram down here, okay, your 1, 2, 3, 4, stuff like that. So this is actually what we are doing. For example, we focus a lot on the business model. We focus a lot on customers acquisitions, fundraisings, the strategy, operations, and team management. This is basically what Blackstorm does. Okay, we do all this, but we are not expert in every single thing, because customers may have different requirements. Customers may have different clients, may have different needs in different time also. So that's why we are always welcoming. If you happen to be someone who is good in what you're doing, join us, not as an employee, join us, list yourself up. If you go to startupstorm.asia, you go under one columns where there's an expert, you can actually submit your details if you want to. So okay, so another slides. So we covered a fair bit of stuff, content. So from courses to podcasts to talks to programs. Anyway, just go in, it won't cost you an arm and leg. You can access it without paying anyway. Okay. You can take a look. A lot of these are your interviews that we have done. Okay, then this is the part that will probably be interesting for some of you folks. If you happen to be someone who is actually an expert in certain things with a good experience, you may want to look into what you are, can offer. You can actually identify the expert that you want to speak to. I'm talking about the other side. It means if you are an expert yourself, okay, you're probably on this side, but there are others who are actually not quite sure. They want to talk to the experts, and this is where they will come in. They will identify, okay, guess what? I want to talk about legal in Malaysia. Okay, I want to understand about taxations. I want to understand about the Bumi Putra. I want to understand about, in Thailand, what are the things that I cannot talk about? What are the things that may offend the royal family? Okay, how do I navigate? Can I open a company as a foreigner? Can I own 100%? What happens if I'm a US citizen? Do I get a double taxations? How do I waiver this? Stuff like that. No, of course, can you find answer on the internet? Definitely. Can you find from a ChatGPT? Definitely. So why in the world do you need an expert? Just like in the very, very early I mentioned, you're not asking an expert on answers that you can actually find out yourself in the ChatGPT. You should tap onto the experts with the experience that they can help you to navigate all these obstacles. Because with that, it actually saves you a lot of time. Okay, so simply put, you are supposed to be an expert in the field that you pick, and you're supposed to give an answers in a very quick way, but yet with solutions to solve the problem. So coming to an end, if any one of you guys who are interested to be an expert in the Startup Storm, okay, just scan the QR code here. You can take a screenshot, can always take a screenshot, or just come over to the website, talk to us, whatever, and then share your details, and then you receive an invite. So if it is something that you're keen, go ahead. So what have we been doing under Startup Storm? As I mentioned, we actually using this as a funnel. So there will always be clientele who are keen to want to know more. So before they actually engage Blackstorms on a retainer. So for us is that some potential clientele are actually not ready yet. So it may be actually be better for them to talk to an expert. And then from there, they take it up. And ultimately, when they decide, hey, you know what? I want to bring my company here. I want to expand my businesses here. Like last week, I think, well, now it's November. Last week, some of you guys may know there was a couple of big events. One of them was Switch, SWITCH in the Marina Bay Sands. Interestingly, we have clientele that are from Korea, Japan, Taiwan, China, Hong Kong. So we have quite a fair bit of clientele. And a lot of them actually started off with coming to us and say, hey, I need help. And then from there, we actually start to filter. And then from there, we start to expand and becomes a retainer projects. And then we sort it out for them within 100 days before we sign up for another, or before they sign up with another one. So without much delay, take a look at this. You can always scan the QR code, go in and take a look if you see something. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to us also. Okay, well, the rest of them quite straightforward. 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay, so of course, after profile, we are going to do a bit of due diligence on what you do and stuff like that. So before you do anything, just clean up your profiles, make sure that everything is good. Because if we can find you, your potential client can also find you. Okay, so, and then we can take it from there. Okay. Left side is the email address. You can always pop us an email. If not quite sure, can always reach out to me. And then we can actually ask a bit more here and there. Okay, so I know I overrun. Okay, overrun a couple of minutes. So I'm just going to stop here. And I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'm going to jump into the Q&A. And apparently there have been some questions here and there. Okay. So the next few minutes is for Q&A. Okay, somebody asked, can you get a copy of the presentations? Yes, we will load it up on the website. And you can actually go over there, take a look. Then the rest of them are my colleagues trying to sell you more things. Okay. Can you elaborate on fixed bid fee and 30%? Oh, okay. Yeah, so let me just very quickly run you through. Okay, so here's the thing, fixed bid fee. Okay, before I answer, there can be a similar questions and all this. Okay, take note, this is just a guideline. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow fixed to it. Okay, bottom line here is, I'm a more realistic, pragmatic guy. Bottom line here is that whatever services that you sell and the fee that you charge, does it cover your costs? And are you happy with it? Because if this is your first side hustle, you have to understand, if you are thinking of, hey, you know what, I understand a lot. I want to make lots of money, but definitely not your first project. You should actually learn. I rather make a loss in it and then gain much experience in a faster, shorter time, so that over time I can actually put myself up a bit more. Okay, so now the question here is fixed bid. Okay, so fixed bid is actually quite straightforward. Okay, so here's the thing. You can actually take it as, okay, this project cost you X dollar. And this is X dollar is fixed. Okay, just like any other projects, there may be a few range of it. Let me just briefly explain. This project will cost you, let's say, $50,000 US. That means I will do all the necessary stuff to reach the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 list of things. I will do all of it. And then this is the fixed price. It can be. Okay, why do I say that? Because there are some projects that will never end, which is why it becomes an open bid, meaning that there are also some projects that you come in, you solve one problem, two problems, but sometimes it's not about you solving the problem. It's just that it hasn't presented itself for you to solve. So that means you can only advise so much. Okay, example, let's say somehow, somewhere, in the particular country, they are going to release a certain license. Let's say they're going to release an e-wallet license. Okay, so now they need a consultant to come in. So you probably work with, let's say you work with some banks, you work with some organizations that in the fintech, and you understand very well. So now you come in and you're probably selling them, okay, X numbers of mandates per week for X numbers of, period of time. So when you do that, it's open-ended, meaning that you come in, you sell all this, you charge by the mandates, but you're supposed to steer the companies to prepare them to apply for e-wallet license. But what happened if one day the government said, okay, due to unforeseen circumstances, change government whatsoever, we decided to delay this for another 1 year. So what happened? So theoretically, if you were to do a project, like let's say you charge 50,000, and one of the requirements is you're supposed to be with them all the way until the wallet has been approved, or the guarantee that they will take it up. Then the question here is got nothing to do the timeline. It got something to do with your scope of work, because the scope of work is probably unrealistic. That means, but if you have already signed for it and you already offer it, then there's between two companies. But what I'm trying to say is that if it's an open, okay, if it's an open portion, then if projects are being delayed, you are only charged based on the number of man-hours, man-days that you've given. Okay, so this is, in general, this is what fixed bid. Okay, question. Could it be ethical to publish an ebook completely written by ChatGPT? It depends on who is the reader. It depends on who is the reader. Okay, so now, for example, okay, I get a lot of answers from ChatGPT, but I know very well that I cannot just copy and paste and then just plug it in and say, ta-da, and then that's it. Then honestly, the value of a consultant or advisor actually diminish over time. And these days, it's actually not difficult for someone to just copy and paste whatever that you give, plug it in, and then ask ChatGPT itself to check whether it was this actually written by AI. Okay, so now, the thing is that when you're publishing an ebook using ChatGPT, it still has to go back to the source. Okay, until today, it hasn't really been resolved yet, which is why some companies are suing OpenAI, some authors are suing, saying, hey, you know what? My information is actually in the internet, on the internet, but somehow your ChatGPT collected some of this information and then presented, okay, as a whole lot of it. But yet at the bottom, there's always a disclaimer. So question here is, ChatGPT will still need to pick information from somewhere. So is that somewhere or some information or some content, is it copyright whatsoever? So is it ethical to publish? So the question here is actually no right or no wrong. It depends on you as an author. Okay, so I wrote some articles myself. Okay, I wrote it myself. I don't even write. Actually, I use just voice to text. I just use voice to text. I wrote a whole bunch of it. Put it up, everything. And then I just throw the whole chunk. Hey, ChatGPT, can you just clean it up for me? Can you clean up for me in terms of maybe each of the PowerPoint slides is about 30 PowerPoint slides. And then give it to me. And then they will come up with, they will generate the whole entire thing. And then after generating the whole thing, do I trust it? No, I don't trust it. Okay, it just helped me to save a couple of hours, okay, of cleaning up rather than try to do it myself. Then from there, I will pick it up. Do I want it or do I not want it? So similarly for books, if the whole entire book is completely written by ChatGPT, you're actually not the author. You're just someone who actually gives the prompt only. So you're probably strong and good in the prompt engineering, but there's actually no content. You should actually provide the content for the ChatGPT to work on, not the other way around. It's not like as if, hey, ChatGPT, can you write the whole book about the history of Singapore from 1950 to 2025 or 2023? Well, the fellow may be able to pick up everything, even how to write, what to do, what is the objective, who are the readers. You know, all this, it should come from you. Okay. So now, let me see. Okay, John. Okay, John. Oh, yeah, hi. Thanks, John. John is a friend of mine. Okay. What makes Startup Storm better than LinkedIn existing feature for featuring member services? No. Is it better? I tell you, to be honest, LinkedIn is actually better than Startup Storm. No doubt about it. This is not a competition or whatever. It's not an apple-to-apple comparison. Partly it's because it's actually very simple. LinkedIn is worldwide. LinkedIn is global. And LinkedIn is actually, they already have a presence, since day one. So this portion of it, the member services, is actually an add-on. Okay, I won't try to defend, is Startup Storm better? And it's not. Each and everyone, because here's the thing: if you are a consultant, it doesn't mean that you should actually list it in only Startup Storm. You're not. Because if you are going to do a side hustle or you're a freelancer, you should have options. Once you have the options ready, you can actually put yourself up into lots of others. When you put yourself into lots of others, then you actually cast the net wider. So my take here is that LinkedIn probably much more wider. Startup Storm is probably much more niche. So if you want to target, like just I mentioned about, we have a fair bit of visitors, subscribers from Middle East. So because I now somehow, somewhere, Southeast Asia has been very popular. So now we have quite a fair bit of this kind of clientele. And as I mentioned earlier, like the Blackstone side, we have a clientele from Russia, China, Taiwan, Hong Kong. So LinkedIn may not reach out to everybody and anybody to get the attention. So somehow the positioning of Startup Storm is good. That may actually be someone that we can actually target on. And that may actually give you, a bit more narrow type of clientele that can fit the niche. Okay. Eugene, is it true that market is liquid? Who can afford to pay for a consultant now? How do we know where is the right target? What's the best place to find brokers? Okay. Sorry, somehow somebody tried to call my colleague. Okay. So now, okay, good question. Is it true that market is liquid? I got no answer, but I can tell you, we all got problems to solve. When you're an employee, you're hired to solve the problem. Whether you pay for 8 hours or pay for 10 hours, bottom line here is there will always be people to be hired to solve problem. So a consultant is positioned properly, positioned correctly. It simply means that there will always be people willing to get your help, get your advice. I think there will always be people who are willing to pay. Okay, so who can afford to pay for consultants now? Okay, good question. So it is just that, so consultancy is just no difference from any other services where there will be willing buyer, willing seller. Okay, so what do I mean? Okay, let's say for example, okay, so I'm an Apple user myself. I use MacBook, I use iMac, a bunch of, but I just don't use iPhone. Okay, so now here's the thing. You can sell your organs to buy the latest iPhone. Okay, or you don't see yourself as selling your organs to buy an iPhone because iPhone is really not cheap. Okay, but there are also someone who are actually willing to pay for a Xiaomi phone, or maybe a Xiaomi phone is a Xiaomi phone. A phone usage is really depends on the user. If the user want to take fantastic cameras, take fantastic photos, take fantastic of this and that, based on the functions and features of the needs of the user, then you should buy the phone that represent this. But there are also others who do not need the most fancy one, but they want the latest model. So simply put that, there can be someone who actually go to your McKinsey, go to your PwC, go to your Deloitte, okay, to get a consultancy. But there are also others who say, hey, you know what, I can't afford. And even if I can afford, I may not want to go to them. Why? Because my problem may not be that big enough to have a whole team of people coming in. I actually can probably just need 1 or 2 fellas to come in to help me to solve the problem. So this also simply means that there will always be willing buyer, willing seller. The thing is, if there are people who think that, hey, I don't need consultant, it's okay. Because why? The last thing that we want is someone who is sitting on the fence, not quite sure whether if they need you or not. And then you ended up investing in your resources to talk to them, and only for them to tell you no. So take note, this is my personal experience. Doesn't mean that just because you are a first-timer, you should undersell yourself. Okay, so like example, what I always do, okay, I'm not a first-time consultant anymore. So sometimes we bump into potential clientele. They come to us, they talk to us. You're like, hey, you know what? Very interesting. We heard about your service. We want your service and everything. Usually, I will say no, not because we are atas or we are put ourselves high up. No, we don't. I rather say let's have a cup of coffee. Let's chit chat, because through this you will be able to identify what he or she needs. Because sometimes you do not know what you need. And when you do not know what you need, you think that a consultant will solve all the problem for you. And truth to be told, everybody lies. We all lie. Imagine if I were to meet a consultant, my first question is, hey, you know what? My budget is 10,000. What can you do for me? So are you going to surround yourself based on the 10,000? And we all know that the problem to be solved is more than $10,000. Because you can't solve a problem based on the amount of money that you can pay. You should look at how deep, what is the magnitude of the problem. And if the problem is actually something that you can solve on your own, if you are one person, or it should be something that it can be solved by a team. Or maybe, can it actually even be solved? Like some time back, we had a company who said, hey, you know what? I got an e-wallet license, and I got it years back. I don't intend to continue. I want to sell it away. Sure. But I'm not the right person because I'm not a broker. I can't take your e-wallet license and then put out in Carousel, put out in Shopee, and then start to sell your license. We are not. So I'm not the right guy. But if you were to ask me to come in to structure it, okay, today you want to sell at $1, but actually you want to sell at $2. I can probably come in to structure the whole positioning, the strategy for it. Maybe instead of just putting up to sell and then wait for the buyer, why not I position myself as, hey, you know what? I don't go and look for buyer come and look for me. I position myself as, hello, I have these solutions, I have this ecosystem, and maybe I don't do it in the local country, I will do it in overseas country, so that foreigners who want to come into Southeast Asia, foreigners who want to come into this particular market, they need an e-wallet license. And if they have an e-wallet license, it will make great things for them. So maybe I want to position for them to buy from me. So then instead of selling $1, I can actually sell more. So that portion will need a consultant, but definitely not someone to help you to sell. So that will be a field positioning that I will say. Okay, where to find the best place to, what's the best place to find brokers? Networking session, introduce yourself, talk to someone and say, hey, you know what? I'm a consultant, I'm a freelance consultant, I'm a first-time consultant. Can I get some help? You'll be surprised, because when you do that, and people may be able to come over to you, and there may be, well, some of them don't call themselves broker. They may actually be someone who just say, you know what, it can be your friends. It can be anyone. It can be someone who say, okay, hey, that's interesting. So what you're doing, and you know what, I may have someone who needs help. Why not you guys have a cup of coffee, have a couple of beers and then talk about it. And then from there, you discover each other. And then from there, you decide, is this something that you want to do? And if it is yes, how much will you pay the broker? If it's a friend, it's easy. You can always talk to them. And if they already have experience, then they will probably be able to tell you, this is what we charge. And if they don't have experience, then both parties actually explore it together. And when you explore it together, it makes life easy for everybody. Okay, so there are actually a lot of things that we can always look at. So my take here is that figure it out, see what works and what will not work. Okay, especially if you are a first-time consultant. Okay, so I've overrun a bit. So I hope that it has been useful. So please feel free to ask us any questions later on. You can reach out to us, and hopefully that these few minutes of sharing is insightful enough for everybody, and then we can pick it up from there. Okay, so from here, thank you very much, everybody, and then I shall end the session from here. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, Celine.